Boom, this is a boy Rasta. Make sure you tune in to the Lion Voice vlog and the YouTube. Make sure you click that bell right there and subscribe on the thing, alright? I give a lot, but I ain't giving up cause I know my time must come. Swah!
About basically the festival owners, Coachella, have been watching Afrochella for some time now. Um, you see what I'm saying here? Afrochella has booked Burna Boy, Stone Boy, Black Sheriff, all of these big artists for this festival. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the festival is getting big, it's creating demand. There may be some deep pockets there.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an artist, I'm an author, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion Voice vlog. Welcome to episode 45 of the Lion Voice vlog. Before we get into this special legal episode, we want to just do some housekeeping. I want to thank all of the new subscribers to the channel. Big up yourself. The channel is growing slowly but surely. We've had an uptick recently. Thanks to the Rastafari Man Standard, the coronation videos are doing well, relatively speaking. So I don't want anyone with a massive YouTube channel look on the numbers and say, what am I talking about? But everything is relative. And as content creators, we have to celebrate our wins no matter how small they may seem. That aside, we just want to big up all of the subscribers, share the word, spread the word. This is the platform where I'm bringing you the entire Dejazmatch Kwasi ecosystem through different videos. The overall theme, we evolved. We started out with building your kingdom while stepping out of Babylon's jungle. However, the time has come for the lion to tell his own story, just been rolling off the tongue. So we have now made that the main motto of the channel, because in all that we're doing, controlling the narrative is important, which brings us to the topic of today. What is today's topic? Today's topic, we deal with the power of trademark, and we're going to deal with a very interesting case where the continent of Africa is colliding with a popular brand here in America. Early in October, it's been reported that the big African festival, Afrochella, which has been rising and heating up the music scene on the continent, has been sued by the American giant music festival Coachella. We're going to talk about the implications. We're going to take a look into trademark on this episode of the Lion Voice vlog. I will just go very general. I'm going to follow this case so that we can bring you information on its developments. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Coachella, the largest music festival in North America, suing Ghana's own Afrochella, which is quickly becoming one of the go-to events on the Ghanaian calendar. According to media reports, Coachella and Golden Voice, the festival's organizer, filed a lawsuit against the Ghanaian music event on October 5th, claiming that Afrochella is intentionally using the event's trademark name. The statement comes out saying Afrochella is intentionally trading on the goodwill of Coachella and Golden Voice, well-known Coachella and Chella festivals and trademarks. Coachella Valley Music and Arts claimed in the lawsuit. So what does this mean? Many people may have heard of Afrochella, Coachella. Um, it's important to know that the organizers of Coachella have trademarked both Coachella and Chella. They have a federal trademark for both. I think I'll throw it up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is important fact to know as we move forward. So let's get into the episode. What are we talking about today? Today we are talking about the power of trademark, and we have the perfect case to illustrate what we're talking about. It touches on all the topics we love on this channel: Africa, music, culture. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the big brand Coachella is suing Afrochella, the rising premier African music festival in Ghana, West Africa. According to the press, both Coachella and Golden Voice, the festival's organizer, they're talking about Coachella, filed a lawsuit against a Ghanaian music event on October 5th, claiming that Afrochella is intentionally using the event's trademark name. And this is quoted from the article. It says, Afrochella is intentionally trading on the goodwill of Coachella and Golden Voice's well-known Coachella and Chella festivals and trademarks. Coachella Valley Music Arts claims in the lawsuit. So that's taken from the lawsuit. The lawsuit also claims that Afrochella is doing this by actively promoting music events in the United States and Ghana using a confusingly similar mark, Afrochella, and by fraudulently attempting to register the plaintiff's actual trademarks as their own. So they're alleging that the organizers of Afrochella tried to go and register Afrochella, and that they did so knowing that they were registering a confusingly similar mark. And that's very important. We're going to talk about the trademark standard a little bit later in the episode. It's reported that an exhibit attached to the complaint shows a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office denied a trademark application for Afrochella 4 years ago due to an overly broad description of the event. The office also suggested that a prior filing pending application may present a bar to registration of the applicant's mark. So again, this is they've attached evidence of their allegation that the Afrochella organizers have attempted to register and were denied. The Afrochella Festival, which has been running a few years now, will hold its 2022 edition from the 28th to the 29th of December at the Elwak Stadium in Accra, Ghana. Some of the featured artists on the lineup are Burna Boy, Stone Boy, as well as Arya Star, Fireboy, DML, and Black Sheriff. A big show that, you know. So, big show. Burna Boy is very in demand right now. So, you know, big up the promoter for getting Burna Boy, that Pan-African energy there. Anyhow, Coachella's organizers have filed numerous lawsuits over allegedly trademark infringement resulting from the use of Chella. Most recently, the music festival agreed to settle a suit against Live Nation Entertainment for promoting the 29 Palms Band of Mission Indians Coachella Day 122 concert. The terms of the settlement were not made public. So what is this that we're talking about? Basically, the festival owners, Coachella, have been watching Afrochella for some time now. You see what I'm saying here? Afrochella has booked Burna Boy, Stone Boy, you know, Black Sheriff, all of these big art for this festival. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the festival is getting big, it's creating demand. There may be some deep pockets there. So Coachella, the festival, and also I read in another article that the organizers of Afrochella did a big event in LA, you know, celebrating the launch of their festival. So now they're on US soil. They're not only operating in Ghana, they're on US soil, and they're using this Afrochella, Coachella, as the brand that has been there before is going to want to defend anyone that's using anything that they deem as similar. And I'm not giving any legal opinion in this episode. We're just reporting the facts and giving some education and some information so that as we track this case, we have some parameters by which we can track, we can collectively keep an eye out and know what the standards the court could potentially judge a matter like this based on. And drop your comment, once you see the standard, do you think Afrochella infringes on Coachella's mark? Drop a comment. Let's get some engagement. I'm very interested. I know some of my industry colleagues watch these vlogs, so drop a comment. Let's start a discussion. Okay, that said, so let's talk about the power of trademark. So one of the important things to recognize about trademark is that trademark rights arise from the actual use of the mark in commerce, and it has to be in connection with an existing business. If there is no trade, there's no trademark. So that's a very easy way to think about how trademark works. Registration with the trademark office does not trump earlier use. So if you can demonstrate that you have been using this mark in commerce, and that it was known, and somebody comes and registers the mark, you can challenge that and have the mark overturned. So again, the actual rights that are being granted because you're actually using the mark in commerce, and they're going to give priority to those who use the mark first in commerce. The three things that a plaintiff bringing a trademark infringement lawsuit must demonstrate is that they have a valid and legally protectable mark. 2, that they own the mark. 3, that the defendant's use of the mark to identify the goods or services causes a likelihood of confusion. And the likelihood of confusion is the key here, and we're going to go over that standard and what the courts are looking at when they talk about likelihood of confusion. So we talk a little bit about evidence. What can you use as evidence of a trademark? What do they use in court? Number 1 is the registration. And when you have a valid registration, there's a presumption that there's a validity and your exclusive right to use that trademark. That's the presumption by having a registered trademark. So to overcome this presumption, as a defendant, you have to introduce evidence to rebut that presumption of the plaintiff's right to use. So you'd have to show evidence that you were using the mark earlier in commerce than the plaintiff. So let's relate it back. If Afrochella organizers, for example, could say, we were doing this festival in Ghana since the 80s, and Coachella couldn't demonstrate otherwise, then they might have a opportunity to prevail on an action such as this, and it would have to be focused on the US as well. There's another standard in terms of evidence of trademark. There's a level of protection called incontestability, and this is a benefit that's offered by the Office of Trademark. After your mark has been registered for 5 years, you can file certain formalities, and once that is approved, then your right to use the mark is incontestable. You also can show secondary meaning, and secondary meaning means that even though the mark might be not something that's the most distinct, it acquired the distinctiveness or a second meaning through its commercial use. So if you can show that your product has established a brand through the commercial use and people identify this mark with your particular product by the way that you've traded in commerce, that can also create protection under the trademark law. You still have to register to be able to take the matter into a federal court, but these are evidence that you can utilize in order to establish that you are the rightful owner of a trademark. Strength of the mark, they're going to look at the strength of the mark, and we'll talk about that as we go down into the likelihood of confusion. And the strength of the mark, again, the more distinctive it is, the better. and there are some things that they look at. We'll do videos breaking down. We're going to do a lot of things on trademark because, you know, in this modern content creation era, which I tell people is the greatest era in the history of the creative arts, we're living in that right now because of the technology and the ability that creators have to create their own ecosystems. But in this era, the trademark is more important than ever because you have to distinguish yourself in the marketplace, and as you build a brand, you want a mark that is associated with that brand, so that when people see that, they know that this is your particular product or service. So very important in the modern content creation landscape. So other types of evidence that are used is survey evidence. So in an actual trial, if you bring, and this is one of the reasons why trademark infringement litigation is so expensive, because of the use of expert opinions. And typically in a regular court case, you would object to a survey as hearsay evidence because it's offered to prove the truth of an out-of-court statement. However, in Rule 703 of the Federal Rules of Evidence, this permits experts to base their opinion on data of a kind reasonably relied upon by experts in this field. And in this case, for trademark infringement, they use surveys to determine, you know, the likelihood of confusion, you know, whether or not people in commerce are actually being confused by these two brands. So the admissibility is also supported under the state of mind exception to the hearsay rule, Rule 803(3) of the Federal Rules of Evidence, of indicative of the survey respondent's state of mind. So they're giving you an impression of their state of mind when they see the product. So they squeeze it into those exceptions to the hearsay rule, which for people who are familiar with the law know that you cannot introduce a statement from somebody out of court to prove whatever that statement is saying. They want a fair trial, so they want witnesses to testify as to what they heard and not what they heard out of court, which cannot be tested or, you know, put under cross-examination and but under scrutiny by the person being accused. So that's about the hearsay. Anyhow, moving on. Likelihood of confusion, serious thing. When they look at likelihood of confusion, they're looking at, one, the similarity of the marks, the similarity of the products, the strength of the mark, the channels of trade. Are they in the same lane, or is it a festival and a set of tools, a hammer tool? You know, if it's two festivals, that's gonna make it more likely for the likelihood of confusion. The existence of actual confusion. Are people going to Afrochella thinking that it's a brand of the Coachella organizers? The defendants' good faith in adopting the mark. Did they adopt it because they genuinely wanted to have this mark, or were they? The DuPont test has some of the same following somebody else's mark in order to get some of those, the popularity of that mark. These are things that the court is going to look at. The quality of the defendant's product, and also the sophistication of the purchasers. So if it's something, there's examples given. If it's in the instance, for example, dealing with computer servers, the average consumer of a computer server is going to do his research before he goes in. So he's going to be very knowledgeable about the product, so the likelihood of confusion would be less likely for those types of purchases, where the average purchaser is not an impulse purchase. You know, it's something that people take a lot of time and put a lot of effort into. So those things are taken into consideration, they're weighted. Evidence of actual confusion is not necessary, but the absence of evidence of actual confusion over a substantial period of time creates a strong inference that there is no likelihood of confusion. So if the two products have been out, people have not been confused, that goes in the favor of the defendant. Likelihood of expansion of product lines. a strong possibility that either mark may expand its business to compete with the other will weigh in favor of a conclusion of infringing use. Also, they look at sophistication of the purchaser. So I want to go over the likelihood of confusion. We'll look at the two standards that federal courts use. They're called the Polaroid test and the DuPont test. A lot of them are overlapping points. However, there are some variation in the two tests, but these are the standards. These are the things that the courts look at. So again, the strength of the mark. And when we talk about the strength of the mark, they're looking at, is it fanciful? Is it arbitrary? Is it suggestive? Is it descriptive? Is it generic? So according to each of those categories, depending where the mark lies on the analysis, is going to give whether it's a strong mark or it's a weak mark. So for example, if it's a generic mark, hammers, it's going to be weak than if it was unicorn toe hammers. You understand? So the more, again, and that goes to the fanciful, arbitrary, because it's less likely that it's going to cause confusion. It's going to be very unique to that person. The degree of similarity between the marks is also something that's considered, as to the appearance, the sound, the connotation, and the commercial impression. 3, you have the proximity of the products. Closely related products are more likely to be attributed to the same source. So again, in this example, we have 2 festivals. So will the consumer think that the Afrochella is put on by the organizers of Coachella? These are things that the courts will look at. The likelihood that the prior owner will bridge the gap, meaning that is this an area that the prior owner is going to venture into this type of product or service, and again, therefore create the likelihood of confusion, and they're giving priority to those who have been using this mark in commerce the earliest. Actual confusion is also looked at, again, not necessary but highly probative. The defendant's intent in adopting the mark. So why did you take the mark? What was the reason behind it? So the Afrochella will have to show they had an independent reason for calling their festival Afrochella that wasn't based on anything to do with Coachella. So you see where this is going. The defendant's intent in developing the mark, the quality of the defendant's product. So this goes to when there's, especially when there's a famous mark and you're dealing with dilution. We'll talk about all of these things. So this is the power of trademark. We're just giving you the bird's eye view. Each of these can be a separate video where we just go into them, and we will over time, because we're going to do a deep dive into the trademark. These are the broad terms. So just to sum up, Coachella, Golden Voice has sued big African festival Afrochella. We're going to be following this case and bringing the updates as we find them, and we're going to use it as an opportunity to look at the power of trademark from our own perspective, because the time has come for the lions to tell their own story, and this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion Voice. Well, this is about more than just having a nice time. Some man only want to make love to you in a night time. Well, I've been wanting to tell you for so long that you're divine. I've just been waiting for the right time. Watch the light shine. This love I'm sending, it's never ending. I love you day and night. Ah, girl. There's no pretending, both our hearts need mending. I pray we make things right. Ah, girl. I know how you feel inside. Visions of yourself as a beautiful bride. And the way you feel you can't hide, don't try. Come off your pumps and pride. I spent some time a womanize, wasting time until I realize that a man should serve the most high with a woman. That's why we have side by side. This love I'm sending is never ending. I love you day and night. Ah, yeah. There's no pretending. things right. I know about the tears you shed. Heart get hurt by the words he said. Found out that you were misled. Found out him had another girl in bed.